Welcome into another edition of the Gurus, Xavier Aguiar and Mike Testa, and that is a third face. This is not a glitch. This is a honorary guru, Theo Bachman. He is coming in to talk about college basketball today. Theo is a good friend of mine, college basketball analyst right now. He does a lot with data analytics. He's one of the smartest guys I know, and he's a solid cook. But before we get into any college basketball, Mike, we haven't spoken since the really rough weekend that you had. I mean, just one of the all-time bad Mike weekends. We talked about maybe doing a review of football at the end of Sunday. It was a pretty important NFL weekend. And I was like, he's in mourning. I'll let him be. Just talk to me about your 48 hours through Saturday and Sunday.
Just devastation, depression. Did not want to wake up for Sunday's slate. Didn't care about the 1:00 games. Obviously, Baker's on a bye. The Dolphins lost on Thursday. It was really a bad 72 hours because the Dolphins game on Thursday, then the Friday Halloween game was game 6, and the infamous ball got lodged for the Jays. It was a brutal 4 days for my sports teams. I didn't even get to watch Baker Mayfield cook on Sunday. So it was just an awful experience. The whole weekend was terrible. Halloween was cool, but it just immediately got ruined by that Jays game. I can't. I think I'm retiring as a baseball fan. Wake me up when the Dodgers are nerfed, and we can kind of get the ball rolling there. But I need something else to finish to fill in my summer gap. Maybe I'll watch soccer. I don't know, but the baseball thing, I don't think I'll ever be as invested as I was for the 2025 Blue Jays. So I don't know. I can't. There's like a gaping hole that I need to fill in that summer window now because the baseball thing just ripped my heart out.
So Mike's heartbroken. We'll get him a Joe Scally jersey to really ease the pain. Theo, graduating from Oregon in a new big city. How's stuff going over there, man?
It's pretty good. I mean, we're still like 50 degrees here every day. I don't think I'm ready for a Chicago winter. I don't know what that's going to look like, but the Bulls are winning games. So the city's on fire. I think people aren't getting bullied for wearing Caleb Williams jerseys in the streets.
Correct.
Which that's progress from a couple months ago. And we got college basketballs back. So things are good.
Chicago State is not one of the worst teams in the country, maybe?
Yeah, big year. DePaul, too. If you look at the projections, DePaul's ahead of like 5 other Big East teams in these rankings. Never seen that before. Never seen DePaul projected to be better than anyone besides Georgetown. So
I didn't think at this point in 2025 that Kyle Monangai and Josh Giddey would have the Windy City ablaze, but apparently that's what I'm hearing. So shout out to that. Let's just get right into it, though. We're doing a college basketball preview here. We like to do things a little bit differently here on the Gurus. Let's start big picture. I think this is the best place to start. College athletics are just in such a weird landscape right now. Things are changing rapidly. So let's go here. Theo, I just want to hear your thoughts right now. You're working in the space. You follow the sport about as close as anyone. What do you think is the current trajectory of the sport? Start with like NIL. Just talk to me about what you think of how the sport is handling this changing landscape right now.
I think as long as we don't expand the tournament, I think we're in a fine place here with college basketball. I think one of the big concerns with NIL and the portal was that we were going to lose familiarity with players. But I have this like top 100 players list ahead of me. And there's guys in like the 30s and 40s here that I think like a casual fan would know. Like you see like Fletcher Lawyer, Alex Condon, Tucker DeVries. So I think that speaks well on the sport when you get up there's like 30, 40, 50 players that someone that loosely follows college basketball would know. And then I think an important thing to bring up with college basketball is it's actually the one sport that needed NIL. Like football, I think we all agree those players deserve to be paid, but if they weren't, there was nowhere else for them to go. College basketball was going to get to a point where they were going to start losing guys to other leagues overseas or like overtime elite and stuff like that. And now we've paid guys and it's flipped where not only are we getting all the American players to stay, but there's guys from Europe that are saying, maybe I'll go play college basketball for a couple of years, which we can talk about that and how issues that this might open up, that there's all these 22 and 23-year-old guys that are now coming over here and whether that's good or bad. But I think it's worth it to look at the top 50 prospects in the country and notice that they're all playing college basketball this year.
Yeah. By the way, real quick, I know we talked about this on the other episode with all the transfers and the NIL and the extra eligibility. I do think the one thing that's really good about college basketball, though, is, and you don't see it too much in college football, is a lot of guys transfer up, right? So they go from mid-major to power conference. But I think in college basketball, too, you almost see it reversed as well, where you'll have a guy that wasn't playing at Alabama or Auburn, but they'll transfer to, random group of five school, not group of five, but in this case, it's whatever, mid-major, low-major school, and really make a name for themselves. Again, vice versa, too. You saw Bama a couple years ago have their entire roster was a bunch of former mid-major players that ended up transferring up to the SEC. Auburn, same thing. So I do like that aspect of college basketball. But I did want to ask Theo a question real quick. We see so much, and this was a controversial thing with Jay Billis, I think a week or two ago, where these guys who are like 24, 25, they're still in college basketball. They're like getting these eligibility years that just kind of come out of nowhere. It's like, is that bad for the sport? Because you have these 18, 19-year-old kids coming in and it's like, they got to play because they're trying to go to the league. But you also have these guys who are like mid-20s now. I mean, Chad Baker-Mazara is still in college. I don't know if anyone knew that, but he's still there. Nigel Pack is still there. Tyon Grant Foster's like 30 now. He's still around. Is that good for the sport? I mean, do we need to see these guys around for? I mean, we saw Hunter Dickinson for what it felt like 8 years, but is that good for the sport?
Yeah, I think we need an age gap. Like, I think, maybe if they were a draw, it'd be good, but I don't think anybody likes it. Like, I don't think anyone is a fan of these guys. And then with the international stuff, they might need an age limit because it's the problem with the NCAA is if they want to pretend that these kids are student athletes, even though we know that they're not here to play school. Mm-hmm. You have to let the kids come to campus for a time that's long enough to get a degree.
Right.
So that's why you're seeing these international guys that are 22 years old that are coming and they get 3 years of eligibility, which is probably wrong, but there's just no way to get around that aspect if you want to call these kids student athletes.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I remember, circle back to something you said a little while ago. I remember when Emmanuel Mudiay went overseas to play ball. He was this highly rated high school prospect. He went overseas. Every sports show was telling you how awful this was. It was the worst thing ever that poor Emmanuel Mudiay wanted to get paid. And I think that's kind of set this precedent now where we're almost too pro-player, where players can do absolutely no wrong. Players deserve all the money in the world. They deserve to get their check while they're in college and all this stuff. My question here is, for example, Oregon's point guard is, I believe, 22 years old, 23 years old. He's a Chinese pro basketball player, essentially, played multiple years overseas. To me, that's a bridge too far. I understand if you're an 18-year-old, you want to go overseas for a year and then declare for the NBA draft. I have no problem with that. And even if you want to maybe play a year overseas and, go to college for a year or two, as long as you can enroll in college, if you're of a certain age, that is fine. But I feel like if you're playing pro for multiple years, there's just clearly some issue with that. And I feel like this is now kind of a newer thing. I've always talked about how if I ran a program like Siena, if I was the head coach of Siena and I couldn't compete with the other schools from an NIL standpoint or a financial standpoint, then I would look overseas because you need to do something. You need to find a way to get good players. Well, now, if you're just plucking guys that are like 24 years old from overseas that have gone through the entire youth system and the pro system, and that feels to me that that's not an amateur sport anymore. That's like semi-pro at this point. What do you think about that, Theo?
Yeah, I agree with that. And the thing is, we can tap into the international aspect of this without getting 22-year-old kids. I mean, you look at Washington, they got this kid, Hans Steinbach. I think they offered him in April. They were the only school that offered him. And he's been on campus in the summer, an exhibition game. He's 19. He had 21, 7, and 6 last night. He's already in the lottery of these mock drafts. Like, there's still kids like that. Like, we could still tap into this market. But yeah, I don't think we need to be bringing in 22, 23-year-old kids. I mean, Wei Lin was on a team with Willie Cauley-Stein last year. Like that, if you played with Willie Cauley-Stein, who was in college basketball 11 years ago, you should not be able to play college basketball.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. By the way, you mentioned 1 year overseas and then going to the draft. I mean, we saw LaMelo Ball do that, so that's not like uncommon or anything. I did want to ask you about like the transfer portal though, because this is like the biggest thing. And I think we did talk about, like, should there be like a 5-year gap? Like, how many more? But with the transfer portal, we've seen guys now transfer to like 4 or 5 different schools. Should there be like a limit on how many times you can use this portal and kind of abuse it? Because it used to not be this out of control. I don't think it's as out of control in college football. Although you have seen some guys, some quarterbacks that have been in like 5 schools. But in college basketball, you see it. I mean, Michi Johnson's gone from Ohio State to South Carolina to Ohio State back to South Carolina. So I don't know if that's just him going back and forth or whatever. But you've seen in college basketball, like, guys go to 5 different schools, and it's like they still have eligibility. I believe it happened last year at Clemson. A guy left and went to VCU. It was like his sixth school. I don't even know how it's possible. But should there be like a limit on how many times you get to transfer? And if you transfer once, you can't transfer again until 2 years later, whatever it is. But like, should there be like some kind of restrictions on that?
Oh yeah, I think you should get your one free transfer. If you pick wrong, you get a mulligan, and then after that, you should have to sit out a year. Unless I'd give exceptions, like if your coach leaves or whatever, like the coach you committed to, if they leave, I would say okay, you get another transfer here. But yeah, I think I'll give you one mulligan. But if you try to enter the portal like a second time, I think you got to sit out a year and really think about this.
Yeah, not 3 or 4 times though. Like, that's where it gets a little. That's where it kind of loses me. I'm like, okay, where's this guy at now? Like, I've been following his career. I'm like, wait, he's playing where? And it gets very tough for the casual fan to kind of follow. It's like, I thought he was here, and then it's like now the last year he went to here, and then it's like now he's at Providence. I don't know, but it's like how do you follow all this? How do you follow along with all this stuff? It's very difficult. So I think just keeping it to not 3 or 4 different transfers, and you're at your 4th or 5th different school. That makes it hard for just a casual observer to kind of follow along with the sport, because you don't see it as much in football. And like Xavier's point, with the international stuff, it's not with football. It's not a global sport. Like basketball is a global sport, so you will see like Illinois, for example, is like the Balkan team. A bunch of people from Eastern Europe are on that team, but you don't see that in college football where it's like guys are literally coming overseas to play college football. That's not usually. There's a pipeline in college football. With college basketball, it's like you can get talent anywhere, but it also does make it a little bit harder to kind of follow along with everything.
Yeah, and even if we're thinking about this pro player, like I don't see how going to 5 schools in 5 years benefits you. It does, if there's student athletes, it definitely doesn't benefit you as a student, and I don't think it benefits you as an athlete either. If you're just in a different system every year,
yeah.
You're never developing, getting better in a system. You're never building chemistry with teammates. Like, I guess, like, cool, you learn like a bunch of different offensive sets from like 5 different schools. Like, but I don't think that makes you. That doesn't make you better as a player. Like, I don't think that makes you more interesting or better. I like it's not better for you in any way, I don't think.
Yeah. Does that like prepare you for the league better? I wouldn't think so. I mean, I don't know, but
no. And there are obvious guys, like you can talk about, oh, maybe it's the people in their life, but that's not even true anymore. Because you have a guy like Andrei Stojakovic. You were talking about Illinois a little while ago, Mike.
Yeah.
Stojakovic has been to 3 different schools in 3 years. His dad is an NBA legend, Peja. He's an amazing player. There's no way Peja was like, hey, your college plan, you're going to go to 3 schools in 3 years. That's going to really prepare you. And then it's not even that level of player, too. There's the schmuck level of player, the absolute bottom of the barrel. We were watching Oregon-Hawaii yesterday at midnight Eastern. The guy leading the charge for Hawaii, the backup center, he's been to 4 schools in 4 years. What are you doing? Like, and he was from France. So he's bouncing around. He's an international guy from France going to all these different locations. It's just ridiculous. And to me, that is the problem with the sport more than anything. And you mentioned it with college football, where college football has this movement. But to me, for whatever reason, it's not as in your face. It's not as profound. For some reason with college basketball, it feels like, and I think some of the data supports this as well, but it feels like there is just more movement, and there's more movement from specific people as well. It's so rare, it feels like you just get the one-time transfer. It feels like everyone needs to bounce around multiple times. And that, to me, as a somewhat casual fan who loved the sport a decade ago and has fallen out of love with it, you just turn on a game and you're like, wait a sec. That guy was at Georgia Tech, and then he was at Iowa State before that. Oh, and then he was at Michigan. What? And you're trying to put all the pieces together. You don't even realize half these places these guys have been because it's so hard to follow. And I think part of sports, to get invested, is to know these players' stories. And that's what we talk about when we talk about like the face of the NBA. Shea can't be the face of the NBA. We don't know much about him. And I kind of dismiss that to an extent, but to grow a sport, you at least need that level of familiarity with these players. And there are players we're familiar with for sure. but I think there's too many guys that are too interesting that are kind of losing stock just because they're here, there, and everywhere.
Yes. Can I ask you guys a question about just a scenario about what you think's better for the sport? So Drake last year, awesome season with Ben McCollum and Bennett Sturts. I think McCollum takes the Iowa job, I think, because he knew he could bring his whole team with him.
Yeah.
10 years ago, he just stays at Drake with Bennett Sturts until Bennett Sturts is done, and then he probably goes somewhere else. So I just want to ask you guys, because I've been going over this in my head, like, what is actually better for the sport? Would it be if that team stayed at Drake and they were like a big deal for like 10 days in March and they were this awesome Cinderella story? Or is it better that they've now gone to Iowa and we're going to see them in January playing in Mackey Arena, playing in Assembly Hall, like playing in these big games? Like, what do you guys think is better for the sport?
I'll go first here. I think that is better for the sport, that they were going to see them more at Iowa. My issue was back with what X said was about, it's basically free agency now. I mean, you have guys that are on their third and fourth team. It's like, wait, he was at Georgia Tech, then Iowa State, and now he's where? I think that when a coach leaves and you get a lot of his team to come over with him, that's fine. And we honestly do see that a lot in college football too. I mean, you saw Lincoln Riley up and leave after Bedlam, and he brought a lot of those former Sooner guys with him to USC. So I was totally fine with that. It brought a different population to the West Coast. So I don't have any issues with the guys at Drake going to a Big Ten school in Iowa and kind of revamping that team a little bit after Fran McCollum. So I don't have an issue with that at all. I do still hope that Drake's really good, and I do hope we get a lot of mid-major stories like that, because I think that the mid-major is a big deal in college basketball. Like, that needs to be a surviving aspect of the sport. Like, I think the mid-major needs to be, like, every year we have to have a Drake or a couple schools like that we actually really keep our eyes on. I think what Grand Canyon's doing over there with Scott Drew is really, really impressive. Or Bryce Drew, excuse me, Scott Drew's Baylor. But what Bryce Drew is doing at Grand Canyon is really cool. But I think that you don't have to stay at Drake necessarily. Maybe 10 years ago you would, and maybe that's better for the sport. But I honestly don't mind going and improving. If you get a head coaching job in the Big Ten and it's calling, you got to take that job. And if you want to bring Bennett Sturts with you, a National Player of the Year, we just get more eyeballs on him. That's honestly better for the sport. But I do think that the free agency aspect is a little bit where you lose the casual fan, because it's like, wait, where are these guys coming from? At least with Drake, everyone was on Drake last year and they're coming to Iowa. With other guys, it's like they're on their third or fourth school and we're losing track. So I think that's the differential part there.
I disagree, but I'd have to think about it longer. But I disagree for this reason. I think the sex appeal in college basketball is the star freshman and the mid-major. I think those are the two predominant reasons why people watch college basketball. And then the other thing is the big brand. Iowa is a fine brand. It's a middling brand. It's there. It exists. It's fine. But I don't think that taking a Drake team and plopping them in Iowa really raises up the Iowa star power that it would if Drake just remained constant and played some more prominent games at the beginning of their schedule, and then you came back and saw them in March. For me, where the sport lacks is it kind of does lack with those Iowa-type schools for this reason. I think of it, this is less than 5 years ago, but like a Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey came back to Purdue, tried again, and he was fantastic. It didn't go well for him in March, but he was such an electrifying player to watch. People really learned Jaden Ivey's name throughout that. I think for a school like Iowa, the only way for a casual fan to get intrigued with them is kind of these homegrown guys, or they bring in a player and all of a sudden he's amazing. I think of like a Dalton Connect. He became kind of a fan favorite overnight. Everyone knew Dalton Connect's name because he was scoring the leather off the basketball.
Right.
I think if you're just a solid team, which Drake was, they didn't really, I mean, they were a fun team to watch, but it wasn't like you're changing your Saturday afternoon to watch Drake basketball. If you plop them in Iowa, they're going to be a good team. They're going to be solid in the Big Ten, but it's not like it really changes much of the equation. Whereas if you have Drake and you have them in their last year's form, and you put them in March, God forbid they win a game or two. Now all of a sudden they're the talk of the college basketball world. People are probably hyping them up before the tournament begins because they were such a good team. And now you kind of remember these names. Think about when we were younger. There would be guys you don't really think about until March comes, but then, oh my God, they're your favorite player out of nowhere. There's so many examples of guys like that at these smaller schools, and I think that's what's lacking right now. It's the familiarity with the faces. You want to know that when you turn on an Oregon game from 2014 that Joe Young is there, you don't want to see him transfer to Purdue. You lose that connection for a guy like me. You want to see Perry Ellis and his receding hairline staying at Kansas for 10 years. You want all of those things. And you want it with the mid majors as well. You want all the mid majors got. You want a Shelvin Mack. You want a Fred
God.
Van Vliet. You want
Can
a
you
Ron
imagine if
Baker.
Van Vliet
You
wasn't there?
go
Yeah. Yeah.
on and on and on about it. You want that familiarity once March comes. Now you turn on a game. Colgate's in the tournament for the 18th time in a row, and you're like, I don't even recognize all these guys because even when they made it last year, this is a whole new team, and it's stuff like that that just bothers me. So to answer your question, I think the mid major is being decimated at a rate that I don't appreciate, and I think we're losing sight of what makes the sport actually appealing to the masses. And it's not just playing a, 700 winning percentage basketball. That doesn't work. You need also stars. You need names. You need gravitas. You need buy-in from fans. And right now, that's where the sport's lacking to me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Shelvin Mack example because Butler is honestly a team I was thinking about. Like during this question, I was
Yeah.
like 11 years ago, like not before they made the Final Four, just after Brad Stevens' like first NCAA tournament appearance at Butler. If he would have got a Power 4 job and could have brought Gordon Hayward with him, he probably would have done it. He would have taken a job. Like I don't know what job was open. He might have gone to like Pitt or something. But he stayed. Butler made 2 Final Fours, and he builds the program to a place where they're now in the Big East and they can succeed without him. So that whole story where like you can have a great 3-year run and it can like elevate your program to like a place where you never thought it could be, like that's kind of over now, and I think that kind of stinks. But.
Like Wichita State made a Final Four, brought back Cleanthony Early, Van Vliet, and Ron Baker, and went like 38-0. Like you're not going to see that anymore. If Wichita State makes a Final Four, that head coach is immediately leaving and going to a Power 5 job. Like now Wichita State's in the American, and they were able to kind of build their brand up. But you never see that anymore. Like that was 11 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was. That's just not happening anymore. I do think that, I mean, Drake to Iowa, Drake was in the 7-10 matchup, I believe, back-to-back years now. Iowa could easily be in the 7-10 matchup this year in the first round. So it's not like you're going from Drake to like a huge brand like a UConn or a Michigan or, Duke or North Carolina. Like you're not going to those schools. At least in the Big Ten, it's like Michigan, Michigan State. Iowa's not like the biggest brand in the Big Ten. So it's not like he's going from, a team you couldn't get past the first weekend with to now he's definitely going to pass the first. Like, it's not like a guarantee with Iowa, obviously. But I do think that I don't want to see the mid-major gets ravaged like that. But like I mentioned earlier, there also are guys that are transferring down and kind of helping out the mid-majors in that level too. So it's a weird trade-off, but ultimately it's not what the sport was 10 years ago.
Well, I feel like when they brought this proposition of the transfer portal, specifically from mid-majors, it was this idea in that you could be the Drake starting point guard 1 minute, and then you could start at Duke, but it doesn't really work that way. For every Sion James who balls out at Tulane and goes to Duke, you have 10 other guys who go from a school like Drake or Southern Missouri, and then they end up at like Wake Forest, and then their name value decimates because Wake Forest is a bottom feeder in the ACC or a middling team at best. So then their name value that they had at the smaller school where they were larger in life goes away. And I think that's happening far too often. These guys are just getting lost in the shuffle. And for every second where you think they can kind of raise the platform and be this name, they go to a school that doesn't really prop them up, that their record's not great. You don't see them in March, and then it all goes away. And I think that's where the sport's lacking right now, that continuity. But one place where the sport's doing well are these freshman classes, because every year it feels like the freshman classes are really engaging. They're kind of taking a step up a notch. Last year, it was a good time, and this year it feels like it's even better. From AJ Dybantsa to Koa Peat to Darryn Peterson to Cam Boozer, there are so many guys in this freshman class that really will generate eyeballs. And we live in a culture, this AAU clips on YouTube and Twitter and whatnot. A lot of these guys are familiar names that we've heard through the pipeline for the last few years. So, Theo, I want you to start us off here. Who are you really in on? And you don't have to choose just one guy, but who of this freshman class are you really buying into just immediately right off rip?
Yeah, I think just from a college basketball standpoint, Darryn Peterson's going to put the most asses in seats this year. Yeah. He has the shot making profile that like people fall in love with. That it's usually like an undersized guard, like a Trey Young or like something like that like gets people to watch. Like even like Steph Curry at Davidson, like guys like that like Jimmer Fredette, like that guy that just is a crazy shot maker that people want to watch. But the difference with Darryn Peterson is that he is an NBA body. He's 6'6" with like a ready NBA body, but he just has this insane shot making profile. And something that I actually think is going to help the watchability with Darryn Peterson is that the rest of this Kansas team actually kind of stinks.
Yeah.
They're not very good. Like they're number 19 in the preseason. If they're going to like exceed that number, it's going to be because Darryn Peterson's brilliant, which I think is just going to help the watchability that like he's going to need to make shots on night in and night out basis for them to be good. And I think that's just different than some of these other situations with the top freshmen. That's just why I think he'll be the best viewing experience this year.
Yeah, he's also at Kansas, which really helps. He's at a blue blood school that everyone's going to watch. I remember when Zion came out, it was like he went to Duke, and there was some other schools that were on his list that were like kind of lower level, like South Carolina. It's like, we want to see him at like a major school. Kansas is one of the true blue bloods. So we're going to see him every Super Tuesday at the Fog, which helps. I love Darryn Peterson. Everything just looks super easy and smooth and natural. And again, this is a freshman, so it's like it just looks like he's been in college for like 4 years with the way he moves. It's like, okay, the game doesn't look fast at all.
He also looks 30, so it really does look like he's been in college for 4 years.
Yeah. He looked like an NBA player. I was like, he looks older. He looks like he's older than some NBA player. That's literally what it looked like. I was like, oh, that's not an 18-year-old or whatever he is. So that really shocked me. Everything just looked very effortless. I mean, he can fall out of bed and put the ball in the basket, it feels like. And like you said, Kansas kind of has to. I mean, they got Badunga back there in the front court, but other than that, I mean, it's like they're going to look to him to like put the ball in the hole, because Kansas was I believe they were a 7 seed last year. They were a preseason number 1 team, and they were pretty bad. They really severely under exceeded expectations. So they kind of need to be, again, they're preseason 19. That feels more like a Kansas thing than anything else. Like Kansas is always going to get propped up preseason wise. But I think that's more so just him too, because he's going to be maybe the best freshman in the country, right up there. Boozer at Duke is going to get all the national headlines because Duke is probably the best team of the bunch of all the freshmen we're talking about here. I believe that Duke's probably the best team, but Dybantsa at BYU, they're top 10 as well. Kansas, like we said, top 20 team. Koa Peat, Arizona's 13 right now. They're going to be in the top 10 probably by the next ranking. So all these teams are really good, but Peterson might be the best of the bunch, and he kind of has to be the best of the bunch because Kansas is, maybe not as good as years past.
Yeah, I despise high school basketball. I hate everything about it. But when we started doing this segment, when we were forming this the last few days, I did my homework and I watched a lot of Peterson stuff and his exhibition stuff from the last few weeks and then their first game. I really like his game. I think he plays like a jumbo-sized Donovan Mitchell. That's kind of what it reminds me of. I've heard Kobe. I'm not going there right now. But there's a lot of the Donovan Mitchell movement stuff that I appreciate. I want to see it against better competition, because again, when you watch high school basketball on some of these exhibitions, no one's playing any sort of defense. It's just like, here you go, just do whatever you want. A lot of guys can look good under those circumstances, but I think something's clearly there with him, and I'm really excited to watch it unfold.
You didn't like what he did against Doug Gottlieb's Green Bay team the other day?
Shockingly, no. The 4 white guys trying to guard him, I was all set with. Thanks for coming, Doug. He can put that on his radio show. I'm sure ours would do better if we had that platform, but I was more into AJ Dybantsa personally, and it's not just because he's a local guy, because he grew up a few towns over from me. There is something a little bit surreal watching him play at BYU. It's icky. We all know why he's there. It's weird. I just don't like it. But all that aside, he, to me, was kind of a cross between, he has Jason Tatum's height, but he also plays like a kind of like Jaylen Brown. He's like the Celtics guys combined, and it's really weird to watch because he has the pull-up 3 element to his game. He goes tough to the rim. He was doing so much around the basket. Again, I know all these names. I see clips on social media, but I try not to watch all their stuff until they get to college. I watch the exhibitions and all that stuff. So I didn't know what to expect from him. And I couldn't believe how good he was around the rim and his finishing and how committed he was. A lot of these kids that can't shoot the basketball, all they want to do is shoot the basketball. Whereas Dybantsa seemed committed to going to the rack. He was using screens masterfully. He just felt like he was playing so above his age. And you fall into a guy like Peterson. It looks awesome, but I've seen that 100 times. I've seen so many college basketball players. It's not just the fluidity that is different from him, but it's just okay, we're going to take a million shots. We're going to go to the rim when there's a schmuck white guy on me. But this is kind of my game, and this is what we're falling into. Dybantsa felt like he was actually playing basketball. He was reading coverages. He was knowing when to shoot. He was knowing when to go to the rack. That, to me, is why he stood out at such a different level. I'm not saying Peterson isn't awesome. He very well could be. I want to see more with all these guys. But with Dybantsa, it just felt like intellectually, he was so far advanced everyone else, and that really stood out to me.
Oh, yeah, totally agree. He was just so smooth, so composed. His finishing was awesome. Like he was never uncomfortable at any point in that game and in his first game. And just his spacing, like he was just always in the right spot on the floor all the time, offensively and defensively. Like defensively, he was just always found a way to help and be around the ball, but also like wasn't giving up like wide open back cuts. Like he was very impressive.
By the way, on the offensive side of the ball, Kevin Young, like he actually runs like actual stuff. So this is really good for Dybantsa as far as like getting ready to the league. I mean, he gave him a lot on his plate in the first game of his college career. I don't really count the exhibition stuff, but in the first game, like Kevin Young was like, "Hey, the ball's gonna be in your hands. You're gonna be able to make decisions with the ball in your hands, whether to pass it or whether to drive it." It was really impressive because he kind of, I mean, you see sometimes with freshmen they kind of settle early on. It's like, okay, let me get my jump shot at the college level. Let's see what's going on here. He was going to the basket and he was able to kind of like hang, and that's like an innate skill. Like no one can really coach that kind of stuff. When you're going to the basket, you kind of just know whether or not like the finishing stuff around the rim is. We'll get to that later, but with other guys. But like he can kind of know how to like move his body in when he does drive to the paint and kind of like whether he wants to pass it at the last second or to drive it. He has that ability to kind of like make that split second decision, and that's pretty rare with 18-year-olds. Like that usually takes upperclassmen. It's like okay, now they've kind of mastered that pick and roll game. Going to the basket, but he kind of feels like he's already mastered that, and that's a lot of that is NBA stuff too. Like a lot of that stuff is going to translate. Some other stuff, like Koa Peat, we're going to get to him too. Like a little bit undersized for a 4. How will that game translate to the NBA level? But Dybantsa's game feels like it'll translate really easily. Like I wouldn't have any worries about him tomorrow stepping in for like a Brooklyn Nets player. Like like he'll be able to,
better than half the team.
Exactly, he'll immediately impact winning more than some of these Brooklyn Nets players. So that'll translate easily. As far as like the other guys, but it's a really loaded freshman class. Like I like a lot of these guys, but that was a really impressive opening night out there in Vegas from Dybantsa and Koa Peat.
Yeah, the thing with Dybantsa for me that jumped off, you see NBA players, so like a natural scorer like a Zach LaVine, he knows how to make the read to get his own shot. You see an Ahmed Thompson, the shot's not there yet, but he knows that the reads are there and he can play make to an extent. He tries to get his floater up, but he's a shaky shooter. Dybantsa kind of combines those things into one. He has the playmaking side, he has the scoring side, and he knows when to turn it on. And I feel like for young players in the league, that is one of the hardest things I see for them to adapt to the pro game. Some guys just look totally lost doing that, and other guys, it seems like they're in one gear. They're in shoot mode, they're in playmake mode. They can't really combine it. The fact that Dybantsa looked like he was combining it in his first ever collegiate game, to me, that was like, okay, if he can be a premium table setter and score and care on defense, you bet I'm taking this guy number 1 overall. Like, there's no doubt about it. But let's go to the flip side. Who are you a little shaky on that, there's always these top guys. We all have the rankings on the different sites. There's always a guy that you're like, I don't know what he's really doing there. So who do you have in that category, Theo?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, you have to kind of put someone on blast. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I mean, that's what we got to do.
Yeah, maybe Michael or Mikel Brown at Louisville.
Mikel Brown.
Okay.
Jr.
Yeah. Just didn't love
yeah,
his shot profile, but yeah, it's really early. So,
I mean, not a lot of guys love true freshman point guards. I really like Mikel Brown Jr.'s game, but freshman point guards in general. I mean, it's going to be real. Again, there's only one game we have to go off of for Louisville, but I'm really that's one guy I'm actually most interested to watch. I don't know if I'm down on him per se because I actually like him, but I'm interested to see him a lot. I think the one guy I'd probably be a little bit down on is Nate Ament from Tennessee. He's got all the tools though, so this could easily look like a dumb. I'm not putting him on blast by any means. I think he's going to be a lottery pick and a really good player, but he's like the long and lengthy, all the toolsy guy in the world. So the NBA teams are gonna fall in love with him. But it's a little bit of what we mentioned, X, in our preview for the Western Conference, where it's like with Ace Bailey a little bit. Not that he's Ace Bailey, but he kind of lives in this like tough shot area, a lot of tough twos, a lot of tough mid-range.
Yeah, I can see that.
He was making a lot of moves that weren't getting by guys, and then he would just shoot over them anyway. But he wasn't really getting by anything.
And that kind of is the Ace Bailey forte. That's kind of exactly what he's doing at Rutgers.
Yeah, he's a 6'9". Yeah, he's a long and lengthy wing. So he's like, I'm going to shoot the ball right now, but it wasn't a lot of catch and shoot stuff. It was like, I'm going to do it off the dribble. I'm not really going to get by you, but I'm going to rise up and shoot it over you, which is like nice, but you can't really survive in the league on tough twos. It's very, I mean, you hear everyone say it. Tough twos are not how you survive in the league. You got to get to the basket, show you can finish around the rim, and then obviously the outside shot is usually what make and breaks some guys in the league. But it's one game. I did see him kind of get pushed around in that exhibition game against Duke. Cam Boozer had a 23 rebound game, I believe. So again, it's one of those guys where it's like the strength here with like Koa Peat, those guys, Cam Boozer, like those strong guys for 18-year-olds. Nate Ament's a little bit different, where he's like a lengthy kid. He's very, again, shooting off the bounce is kind of his thing. I think that he's gonna have the green light. We talked about Darryn Peterson at Kansas. He's gonna have the green light, gonna shoot a lot of shots. Tennessee is gonna give him the green light. You saw them do it with Connect. Last year they did it with I forget who it is, but the transfer from North Florida. They kind of gave him the green light to get a lot of shots up, and they're probably gonna do the same thing with Nate Ament here, another really talented freshman that Rick Barnes has. He's gonna get a lot of shots up, so we're gonna see a lot of his shot profile. But again, through one game, I'm not panicking or anything. It's just like I would be a little bit more worrisome about that translation, at least in the college level. You saw Ace Bailey last year kind of just do whatever he wanted, got his own shot at Rutgers. It was fun, but didn't really move me. The other guys I think here are legitimate, like plug and play in the NBA right now, and I think they can make an impact.
Well, I'm a little bit skeptical about one of those guys, Koa Peat, who we were talking about with the 30 against Florida. Just an unbelievable debut game from him. The reason I'm skeptical, if you watched his shot profile, it was impressive, but if you really tried to project it to the NBA, I was like, I don't see another guy in the league playing like this right now. I don't know how this is going to work. Because everything revolves around, for the most part, him just being bigger than everyone in Florida. There's guys taller than him on the Gators, but he was just, it looked like he was double the size of everyone on Florida. And he was just living around the rim, and it was a lot of single coverage, and he was just kind of bulldozing his way to the basket. He played like an old school four. A lot of those guys that we grew up with, like your Taj Gibsons, your Carlos Boozers, that level of basketball player, Derek Favors, there was a lot of these like pure fours. But the problem is he's only 6'8". If he was 6'10", 6'11", you could say, okay, maybe like some modern Al Jefferson when he made that All-NBA with Charlotte, where he's just kind of bodying everyone, getting a ton of high post touches every game. But that's not how basketball is played anymore. And unless the shot, which we didn't really get to see because everything was around the rim, unless the shot really translates, which it looks a little shaky at this point, I just don't know how he's going to look in an NBA game. It just doesn't really make any sense to me.
Yeah, it was an unorthodox 30 points for sure. But if you can get 30 on Florida's bigs with like Alex Condon, Thomas Hawk, and Ruben Shimilu, like he's gonna score on anyone in college. I think like you're not really
100%,
a better, deeper defensive front court at this level than what Florida threw out there. Now he's probably gonna start seeing some double teams. So we'll see how he handles that. I mean, that's an issue with some of these kind of like back to basket.
Yeah, because everything was in single, which I thought was crazy. I couldn't believe once he got to like 20, I was like, okay, surely something changes here defensively. They were just leaving him out in single coverage under the basket. He was getting really deep touches. And I was like, he's just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And with how versatile Florida's defense is, again, he was just using his strength, and it looked like he was just ragdolling them. And they had no answer for it.
I mean, by the way, he's 18 years old, and he had NBA strength already, which was really impressive.
100%, yeah.
That was really impressive. But now you did say we didn't see any of the shot. He did go 8 of 12 from the foul line, so that's 67%. For whatever that's worth, again, we only have one game, so we're going to see a little bit more of that outside shot, hopefully. But I thought it was a really impressive freshman debut. I mean, one of the all-time freshman debuts at Arizona. To get 30, like Theo mentioned, against that front court is really impressive. And he was kind of NBA bodying them. Like, it was like, again, we'll see how it translates to the NBA actually, but just as far as NBA bodies, he looked like the only NBA body on that floor, and Hauck is a projected first-round pick. So Koa Peat was by far the most impressive guy in that game. And I think there's more room to grow with Koa Peat. Like, that was only one game we've seen. Like, and all the TikTok talking heads that loved Koa Peat that I was following along the offseason, they liked him for various reasons. I think we saw one reason on Monday, or what I believe it was Monday night, when you saw the strength of Koa Peat, kind of just getting to his spot, high flyer, had like back-to-back crazy dunks in transition. It was a wild. He had some awesome defensive plays too. So I mean, I think there's more room to grow with Koa Peat though. But obviously, I do agree that you don't see much undersized true fours in the league now with like the power forwards. Either you can play small ball, but you have to be like a Draymond Green level defender, or Bam level defender. Colin Murray Boyles is another one that's kind of an undersized true four. But like, I think the Koa Peat stuff is legit. I think he can actually translate, because you're going to find guys in the league that are going to just, if they can put the ball in the basket and if they have strength, you're gonna be able to find a spot for him on some team. I don't know if he's top 5 pick or whatever it is right now, but I think he's playing himself into for sure a lottery pick.
Yeah, if the shot ever comes along, then it's totally different. Then you can kind of do this inside outside. You put him as a small 5. You can do stuff with that. You just really need a shot profile. But I just wanted to mention that because so much season to go. But I thought the praise was kind of lacking what we actually saw, which was he was just ragdolling people, which is incredibly impressive. But you need to see more of that to succeed at the next level. But the last guy I want to talk about here, who we haven't really mentioned much, you see Dybantsa and Peterson everywhere, but you also see Canton Boozer, the son of Carlos Boozer, who I mentioned a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
And Boozer's playing at Duke, and he's a really big name, and it feels like everyone has a differing opinion on him. I can't really seem to find a consistent opinion on him. Theo, what do you got on him? Because I'm really curious what you think.
I was impressed. I mean, the shot wasn't falling, but I don't know. I was seeing like Kevin Love with him. Like the outlet passes jumped off first of all. He made some really good passes from the perimeter. And then like his ability to just like initiate a post up like 20 feet from the basket and still kind of get where he wants on the floor, I thought was really impressive. So yeah, the shot didn't fall, but he looked like a player that could help you in a lot of ways, which I was impressed with.
Yeah, but by the way, I'm the Duke fan of the group here. Xavier, you're kind of like the honorary Duke guy. Like you root for Duke. Let's be real here. I mean, you're an Oregon guy, but you kind of root for Duke.
Yeah, I respect the brotherhood. You know.
Yeah, you're like an honorary member of the brotherhood. I like Cam Booster. I thought that heading into the game, and I think you saw it in the game too. The finishing on the rim is a little bit questionable. I thought we talked about Dybantsa and specifically Peterson, where everything looks smooth and natural and effortless. I think sometimes Boozer's offense looks a little forced at times. It's like, okay, I have to get a shot up now. It's like that looked like it was kind of either rushed or a little forced. It's like that wasn't really the natural offense that I'm expecting with other natural scorers. So that was a little bit whatever, but that's only one game. I think that the big thing for him is his size, his strength. He's got finesse too. Like you saw some nice moves down there in the post. You talk about posting up 20 feet from the basket. He can still get to where he wants, which is really impressive. And the playmaking is a big thing too. Like he's a really, really awesome playmaker. Can set up offense, initiate offense, and then the rebounding thing is the big thing for him. He's one of the best. I think he's going to be a really good offensive rebounder for Duke specifically. Like I said, he had 23 boards against Tennessee. A lot of those were me bounds as well, where he's kind of rebounding his own misses. So again, the finishing on the rim could be a little bit better for sure, but he's just an awesome rebounder because he's got an awesome second jump. He's got like we saw at Zion at Duke he didn't miss much around the rim. He was an awesome finisher, but when he did, he had this insane second jump where he can get his own misses and putbacks. It was kind of wild to watch. He's not Zion in that aspect, but he's got a really good second jump, and he's gonna be able to rebound a lot of his own misses. Or hopefully, if he just improves as a finisher on the rim, he won't have to miss all those shots. But it was just a rough offensive showing, just shot making wise from him against Texas. It was just a lot of funky offense. It was like, again, it's basically all of Duke's bench last year who is now starting. So it's like the Isaiah Evans, the Caleb Fosters, all those guys, and Ngangba, who was a backup to Malawach last year. All those guys are starting now, and he's kind of like the guy that they look to. It's like, okay, you got to score. And it looked a little clunky, looked a little forced at times, but I think all the other stuff is really good. Like there is a lot of Kevin Love there with all the playmaking and the rebounding, which we saw a lot of for him at Minnesota and other spots. But I think hopefully the shot will come around, and hopefully the finishing on the rim will come around a little bit better. But I think he's got a really high floor. Like he's got a lot of boxes where he's like, okay, that's check, check, check. And then there's some other stuff where it's like, okay, if that comes along, he'll be a really good NBA player.
When you sent the text about the Kevin Love comp, I really liked it. I also saw some whiffs of Paolo and some of the issues that presented Paolo at Duke as well with the shot making and kind of the finding the shot and how it was a little bit clunky at times where it felt like, oh, I kind of have to do this now. That's what it reminded me of quite a bit. I like him to an extent. I don't, he's another guy. I just don't know what it looks like in the NBA. Some guys are very easy to figure out. Like, oh, I've seen Darryn Peterson before. I've seen AJ Dybantsa before. Boozer, I'm like, like kind of like shades of guys, but how is this going to work? Are you going to be a top 50 guy? Or are you going to be a top 100 guy? That's where it kind of lacks for me as far as my comprehension of what can Cam Boozer be throughout this season in Durham, but also, because let's be honest, they're playing for these schools. They're also playing to be drafted. They have to kind of flex their muscles. They have to show why they're supposed to be a lottery pick. That's just how these guys play. And they're going to, at the end of the day, do what best suits themselves to get drafted as high as possible. And I think for him, part of that is being a monster on the glass, being a really good teammate in that area, playmaking at an above average rate for a guy his size, and then also showing that he's a competent offensive player. I'm worried about the latter a little bit because I think around the rim, again, it's the same thing I said with Pete. When you're bigger than a lot of these guys and you have NBA bodies, Boozer's fortunate to have a dad who played in the league, so he's kind of been groomed for this moment.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, obviously you're going to look good around the rim. But what happens when the guy for, Georgia Tech under the basket becomes, Sengun or something? So you actually have to move a little bit harder. Then that's when it gets a little bit more difficult. So I like Boozer. His brother stinks, by the way. But I just want to see a little bit more there. But I like what I see from all these guys. I think it's a really good class. I think
Really good class.
I don't know if this is saying much. I think this is one of the deepest classes I can remember, at least in the last 5-10 years. I thought last year's class was hyped up to be that. I didn't come away feeling that. I liked Flag a lot. Kneppel, I loved his game, but I don't think he's going to change the NBA or anything. Harper was a little underwhelming. I thought he was good. I liked him. I projected him as number 2 in the class as well, but I was a little underwhelmed. Bailey was super underwhelming. I like Trey Johnson, but it just felt like Malawach was a top 10 pick. It was like, okay. Like, that's the class we're dealing with. We're here. If you're taking a guy like Koa Peat around that range, I'm a little more excited about that. So okay. I just feel like this class is a little deeper. Theo, what do you think about that?
100%. I mean, there's guys that scored 20 points that would be like leading Sports Center in past years that were true freshmen that like got buried. Like Darius Acuff looked awesome. He had an easy 20 points. He's like on page 3 if you're like like he's buried. The kid at Washington I mentioned earlier, Hans, like 21, 7, and 6 from like an international kid. He's there's guys that are dropping 20 in their first game that are like getting
Virginia
buried.
has one.
Class is so good, yeah.
Yeah, Virginia has one. DeRitter had like 21 and 6, and I was like, hey, he's a 6'9" freshman that they had. I was like, hey, that's one that usually would make national headlines. Did not at all.
For Sinak at Houston, like Kelvin Sampson is starting a freshman. Like that's a big deal.
That never happens. Never happens. And he was really impressive too. It was almost. And I follow Ryan Hammer on TikTok. He had like a list of 30 freshman debuts, and he was like, I can't even get to all of them because some of them I'm gonna have to do like honorable mentions for. But all these guys look pretty darn good. So it's a very deep class. I did like the top of last year's class, obviously a lot with Flag and Harper. By the way, Flag was supposed to be in this class too, so he reclassified up.
Yeah,
he was also supposed to be in this class. So this would have made this class even more drunk.
Could you imagine? Oh my god,
I literally couldn't. So thankfully he's not, because this would have been an all-time. You're tanking in this year for the NBA, so we would have seen all-time bad tanking teams this year in the NBA because it's like, oh, this draft class has Dybantsa, Peterson, and Flag. Like, really?
Yeah, Jaylen Brown would have been sent out with an illness weeks ago. The Celtics would have packed it in.
Unethical tanking going on in the NBA. That's what we would have seen if Flag was able to just stay in this class. But that would have been completely unfair. So yeah, it's a really good and deep freshman class. I wanted to shout out this kid at Virginia Tech, Neoklis Abdullah. He had a rough shooting game in his first game on Monday, but he had 9 assists. Against Charleston Southern. He's like a 6'9" freshman wing at Virginia Tech who played. He's from Greece. But
some crazy passing stuff. I saw some stuff on Twitter. Yeah,
insane passes where it was like there's like just a hint, just a whiff of Luka Doncic playmaking in his game. And I was like, whoa. So I really couldn't believe that. So I had to go on Twitter and see it. But just one game in. But that's again these freshmen are getting buried. It's like the third page, like Theo mentioned. It's like you can't even. We're talking about the top 5 guys, or the top 10 guys. There's like guys that are way down there just as freshmen that normally would be making like national headlines.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an all-time class, I think. And there's a lot of teams already subtly tanking. No one tell the Pelicans that they're tanking. Not that anything can come from.
They don't have their picks, so they can't.
There's a lot of teams kind of subtly tanking, maybe not off to the best of starts. And then the more college basketball progresses, I think it could get really ugly and blatant in the coming months. So yeah, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that for our NBA stuff. Let's move to our next part here. This is for Theo. Mike, jump in when you want. This is going to be a rapid-fire analysis here. We'll do this with teams in a few moments as well, but let's start with players. Theo, who's the most underrated player in America right now?
We talked. I mean, I'm an Iowa guy. I kind of think it might be Bennett Starks. Even as high as people are on him, like I think this Iowa team is going to scale, and I think Bennett Starks is going to be a big reason why.
I had Christian Anderson at Texas Tech. JT Toppin's the guy who's going to get all the preseason National Player of the Year hype, as he should, rightfully so. But Christian Anderson is like a dude. I believe he had 30 last night. Looked very easy, 30 for him. So that 2-man game is going to be very interesting at Texas Tech. I just think he's not going to be the one that's going to get all the flowers at the for Texas Tech, who, by the way, is a preseason top 5 team. So maybe he's not underrated, but I just think out of the two, he might not be getting all the flowers there, but he's a really awesome player for college basketball.
I'd be remiss if I didn't at least shout out my guy, Robert Hinton, Ivy League Rookie of the Year last year, Freshman of the Year, balled out against Providence in an exhibition a few weeks ago that I was able to attend. Just when you see an Ivy League baller playing at that level, you really just take note. And if he wanted to, he could easily transfer to a really good school and be an impact player in the next few years. What about, speaking of impact transfers, what about an impact transfer we need to know about that maybe isn't making as much waves as should have this past summer when that guy left his school?
Yeah, I mean, you could pick your guy from NC State. Like I'm
Darryn
kind of
Williams.
into all of them.
Yeah.
Like Quadir Copeland, Trey Holloman, Terrence Arsenault, Darryn Williams. Like I think if you look at a team that's not ranked right now that I could easily see playing in the Elite Eight, it's NC State.
Yeah.
They're in the ACC. Will Wade's McNeese team last year. They played a team in the first round that went 18-2 in the ACC in
Clemson.
And would you agree, like McNeese just outplayed Clemson?
McNeese had the better athletes.
It was disgusting. It was a total wire-to-wire BTA session. That's what it was.
The team from the Southland had the better athletes than the team from the ACC that went 18-2. It was just undeniable.
And this
100%.
is now just a better version of that McNeese team, and they're playing in the ACC. Like, you just talk about long athletes. Like, that's what this team is. Trey Holloman, Terrence Arsenault, who is, bred by Kelvin Sampson to dive on every loose ball, topple over chairs, water coolers. Like, that's what this team's going to do.
That's what they are. Yeah.
And you got Darryn Williams, who's going to get you buckets. Like,
he was dominating Florida last year in the Elite Eight. He was like, I'm going to get a bucket whenever I want. That's an SEC team that won the whole thing. Darryn Williams is a dude. Trey Holloman, dude. Like, they have a squad. I went with Yaxel Lendenborg, not because no one knows who he is. He could have been a first-round pick last year in the NBA. He was at, obviously, I believe, UAB. He was scoring like 30 there, but no one really cared. Now he's at Michigan with Dusty May. That team probably should have been an Elite Eight team last year. Michigan feels like is always good in the tournament. Now they have a dude who can literally average 25 a game and possibly be like a National Player of the Year hype guy. So Yaxel Lendenborg was a dude. I had Donovan Dent in here too. He was from New Mexico. Obviously, we watch a lot of Lobos, a lot of Mountain West. He's now at UCLA with our guy Mick Cronin. So either one of those two guys, you can honestly do like 8 or 9 guys here because, like you said, there's like 5 guys from NC State you could have done. Bennett Sturts, we could have done another one. We could have used that answer again from Drake, now to Iowa. A lot of transfers that you can make a case for. I think Donovan Dent going to UCLA and then Yaxel Lendenborg going to Michigan. 2 Big Ten teams. Big Ten hoops. Obviously, I love Big Ten hoops, but those 2 guys probably could impact the conference.
Yeah, I also had Donovan Dent. We watched a ton of New Mexico last year. We'd be sitting on the couch, 9 o'clock. Oh, New Mexico's on again. Let's turn them on.
Yeah.
And Dent just jumped off the screen. He was such a good player. And the fact that now he's at UCLA, I think could lead to something. I think last year was a really tough year for Cronin. Yeah. He was between just him being annoyed with the schedule and flying across the entire country to players just not playing up to their ability. I think this is a bounce back year for him, and I think Dent's a big part of it. What about a player destined to make a major leap this year, Theo?
I like some of these Vandy guys, like Tyler Nickel and Devin McLaughlin. Like I could see Devin McLaughlin like being a top 5 guy in the SEC this year, and I could see Vandy you looking up and like, wait, Vandy's like the 5th place team in the SEC, the best conference in America. Like I think Vandy's having a good sports year, and I think it's going to continue.
They're having a very good sports year. Oh my gosh, I went with I didn't have a specific guy. I went with a lot of these Texas A&M guys. I like Buckyball. Sue me. He comes over from Samford, obviously now at A&M. He's got Jakari Lane there. Shout out to North Alabama there. Former ASUN, top 5 player in the ASUN. Rylan Griffin comes over, formerly at Kansas and Alabama. Now he's at A&M. Maybe he has a bigger role. Pop Isaacs, who was injured last year at Creighton, I believe. Federico, he's over there now at A&M. So A&M's got a squad. I think any of these guys could pop. I don't know who it's going to be. I'm just taking my shot in the dark on all 5 of them. But all these guys were at other schools that I saw, and I was like, hey, there's something there. I want to shout out Jakari Lane, though, who went to North Alabama. And I watched him a lot last year in the ASUN. He should have won that tournament game against, I believe it was Liberty, or not Liberty. Liberty's in the CUSA. It was the other team that usually always win the ASUN. I forget who it is, but Lipscomb. Yes, Lipscomb. I get Lipscomb and Liberty always confused, but Lipscomb was the one who represented the ASUN last year. I was hoping for North Alabama and Jakari Lane, but I want to shout all those guys out because they're now playing Buckyball, and we saw Samford Probably should have beat Kansas in the tournament 2 years ago. Kind of got hosed. Maybe Buckyball gets him back in the tournament.
I cheated here because I went the totally opposite direction. I went with a guy that people maybe knew about, didn't make an impact immediately, and is ready for a leap. And this is cheating because you already played and had a good game, but I had it written down already. Isaiah Evans of Duke. He was the 13th ranked prospect last year. I thought they could have used him a little bit more at the end of games. I thought Duke really needed some offense, and it was like, here, Tyrese Proctor, please do something. Here, Cunt Campbell, please do something, because all the attention was on Flag, and they were desperate for one of these guards to just literally do anything on the perimeter, and it felt like at times they couldn't. I thought Isaiah Evans was good in his limited minutes. The first game this year against Texas, 23 points on over 50% from the field. He just looks like a baller. And you talked about the fluidity earlier with Peterson. I think Evans has some of that fluidity as well. It just looks easy for him. And I really thought Shire should have played him a little bit more last year. This year, he kind of has the car keys to the offense. It's going to be him and Boozer's show. And if he isn't good, then Duke's not going to be nearly as good as people think. So I think he's a guy that maybe people forgot about because, again, he was in this Duke class that did really well, 3 top 10 picks, and he was kind of the forgotten guy of that bunch. But he comes back, and I think he's going to be really good for the Blue Devils this year. I think, if nothing else, he needs to be kind of the alpha of this team because Boozer's a freshman, and he's going to have his time to go. But I think everything is going to run through Evans, specifically late in contests as well.
I think it has to. Duke, we need the shooting. We need the shooting badly. I mean, Caleb Foster, not a great showing from him in game one from the outside. Had some nice defensive moments. But, yeah, we need the shooting badly. And Isaiah Evans coming back is huge for Duke, who doesn't have the depth that they had last year. Like Duke had so much depth last year that they had Caleb Foster and Gungba, Isaiah Evans coming off the bench. Like they weren't even in the starting 5. So now those guys are all starting for Duke, and they really, really need Isaiah Evans to be like a lottery level kind of making everything look easy on the perimeter. And the shot's smooth. I mean, he's got that shot's going to translate to the NBA. Like that's they saw Gary Trent, Cam Reddish, those guys for Duke who they kind of needed to be shot making perimeter scorers for Duke. He has to be because, like we mentioned with Cam Boozer, he's a freshman. He's an 18-year-old freshman. So it's like you have to, if you're Isaiah Evans, who's now in year 2 in that forgotten class, that forgotten freshman class, or that loaded freshman class at Duke, he kind of has to be the one to step up here for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like he needs to show a little bit more from like a playmaking standpoint, just a little bit more, and I'd like to see a little more intensity on defense as well. But I think he's a legit pro guy. I think he's a lottery pick. I think he's that good. I just want to see it a little more consistently because last year it felt like it was stop-start with him, and they didn't really know what to do with him. So now it's like, hey, you kind of have to be the guy. So
no, they had like 9-minute stretches where it's like he comes in and he knows he has to shoot the ball because he's not going to be in much.
Right, exactly.
He had that mindset of like, I'm only going to play like 6 or 7 minutes tonight. Let me just get my shots up while we're here. So it wasn't very smooth because he knew that the minutes were very limited. So yeah,
that's a good take on the situation. It felt like he was just clunky. It felt like he was on a different page than everyone else. Now he seems like he's a little more bought in. But let's round this out here. Let's go to the team microscope. Let's just rapid fire this. Theo, you're buying teams, 2 teams from like major conferences, top 25 teams, if you will, that you are 100% in on this year.
Yeah, so it's NC State, it'd be Iowa. I think Vandy's better than people think. And I'll go Michigan. Because I already said the other 3 in some way. So new team, Michigan, Dusty May, love what he's doing. Ade Mara, Elliot Cadeau, Yaxel Lendeborg. I think it's a very good team.
I went with 2 ACC teams. I think Louisville and Virginia are going to be really awesome players in the ACC. I think Louisville had an awesome transfer portal guard class. You got Isaac McNeely from Virginia, Ryan Conwell from Xavier, Adrian Woolley, who I watched a lot at Kennesaw State. They obviously got Michael Brown Jr., the true freshman at point guard there. So they have a lot of they have guards for days. And we've seen that play in the tournament before. Obviously, in March, you have to have great guard play. So I think Louisville's a team to watch out for in March for sure. And obviously in the ACC too, which is not like a deep conference. Virginia now with Ryan Odom, who famously beat them when he was at UMBC. He's now coaching Virginia. He brings over Malik Thomas from San Francisco. He brings over Dallin Hall, who's an awesome playmaker from BYU. They had the freshman I mentioned, DeRitter, who had like 21 the other night. Looked really good. Jakari White from North Dakota State. So they have a pretty nice transfer class. And then those are the 2 ACC ones. But I also was going to mention Michigan. I think Michigan's got a really, really solid squad too.
St. John's, I'll always be in on St. John's. I liked Mitchell showing the other night. Hopkins coming in as well. 2 impact transfers. but it's really Pitino. I just think Pitino's style of ball works in modern college basketball. I think last year they lost. They played the worst game of the year and they barely lost. So I think if they can just shoot a little bit better and be a little bit more efficient offensively, then they are a legit national title contender. And I'm going to keep saying that until it actually happens. And then I talked about it earlier. I love the strategy. Illinois, I'm all in. They have my guy Stojakovic. I love the international flavor with this team. I liked the ball movement that I saw from watching the clips of the game against Jackson State. I just think more teams need to do something like this. Teams need gimmicks. You can't just bring in the freshmen and expect them to do well. You need something. You need a gimmick to go off of. I like the gimmick with Illinois. So St. John's and Illinois for me. What about the other way? Sell teams. You're out on these guys.
I think the two teams I'm selling, and from this first top 25 poll, I think I'm selling Purdue as the number one team in the country, actually. I think it's just we kind of screw this up with this like returning production thing. And like it's awesome that Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer and Trey Kaufman-Renn are back. But they were on the team last year, and the team lost 12 games. They were a 4 seed. They went to the Sweet 16. They were like the 15th or 16th.
Where have I heard this argument before?
They were like the 15th or 16th best team in America. So I don't think them all coming back makes them the number one team. Like they added this post-up big Oscar Clough from South Dakota State, which might make them like a little bit better. I think they might be like the 10th best team in the country, but I'm just selling them as the number one team in the country. And then the other one, just this whole summer, I'm just out on everything going on at Auburn. I'm out on Bruce Pearl quitting, and then nepotism Stephen Pearl into the job. And then even outside of Tahad Pettiford, I just don't like their team that much. So I think they're poorly coached with a guy that's not qualified. And I love Tahad Pettiford, but I just don't like the rest of their team. Like I could see them being on the bubble or missing the tournament entirely.
Usually when you're super burned out at your job, you don't take a super high profile job after that. Usually you lay low for a little while. You go on a vacation. You're not like, oh, I'm going to be the lead analyst now at TNT for Turner. Yeah, so I agree with that.
That was a rough game for Auburn. I like Auburn still, but that was a rough one. Todd Pettiford. I like Kevin Overton, the guy from Texas Tech. I like Keyshawn Murphy, Keyshawn Hall, the two Keyshawns there. But I didn't have like a definitive sell because I like all the top 10 teams. Sorry to be like the chalk guy here. I think Michigan State, again, I'm not as big on Michigan State. They were able to squeak by Colgate by 10. The shot around the perimeter is still not really there. That was like their big thing last year. They couldn't make a shot from the outside to beat Auburn to even compete in that Auburn game. So I still don't love again, Cohen Carr, nice high flyer, but I'm kind of out on Tom Izzo's squad this year. I know that Izzo, watch out, January, February, and then Izzo. I'm not really digging the Spartans too much this year. And then North Carolina, I think they're ranked just because they're North Carolina. I'm not so sure that they're I'm not sure they're better than NC State. Like Theo mentioned earlier, I think NC State's like a legit squad. I don't know if North Carolina, I know they love Caleb Wilson, that freshman they have there, but that was a team that literally should have missed the tournament last year. I mean, they got in over West Virginia. I don't know how still. And I think it's, by and large, I don't think it's like a top 25 team. I think they're going to be another one that's going to be kind of fighting for an at-large spot.
Yeah, I think you guys took my notes. I had North Carolina and Auburn here. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention Oregon because, my God, they were ranked 27th in the initial poll if you go off like the receiving votes. And a squeaking win against Hawaii at home. Jackson Shellstad was out. That's cool. You shouldn't be beating Hawaii by a point, especially when you're fouling out half their team. The production that is helping them get this game to be close. It was just ridiculous showing from Oregon. And I'm just over the Dana Altman thing at this point. I think he's a decent coach who overexceeds expectations to those who don't really care that much about college basketball. I think for people like me and Theo, it is absolute nails on a chalkboard to watch this guy, A, coach, B, recruit, and C, just play any team slightly better than them. I think he's living off a high from 10 years ago, and I think his recruiting has gone by the wayside, and I think this team, more often than not, looks unprepared. And congratulations, you can beat like Liberty in March. That's awesome. Like, cool stuff, man. But what about everyone else? And I think that's my problem with Oregon. Like, they do just enough. They're the just enough team for me. They do just enough to get like a 5-6 seed in March. And everyone's like, oh, like the Ducks. And then they beat some schmuck team from the ASUN. And then all of a sudden they go beyond that, play a real team like Arizona, and they get their pants pulled off because they can't execute at key moments. So that's why I'm out on Oregon, and I'll be out on them until something changes.
It's so frustrating. He just has a type with these 2s and 3, like shooting guards and small forwards that look like football players that like their skill set is like they're big and get to the basket. Like, can I just get some guys that can shoot? Like, I'm just sick. He just has a type, and his type isn't even there. It's not good.
No, it's not good at all.
And
the recruiting's never been worse. It's just like, what is going on here? The transfers are yucky too. It's like, here's a 13 point per game scorer from St. Joe's. Like, why is this guy at Oregon? Like, what is going on? It's just weird stuff like that just keeps happening. I'm over it. Let's round this up quick, though, because I can't talk about Oregon anymore. I'm going to just lose it. What about some potential Cinderella candidates, Theo? Anyone you're kind of circling in these mid-major schools?
Yeah, love when the A10 is good. I think St. Louis has a chance to be the class of the A10 this year.
Billikens.
Robbie Avila's back. Everybody knows him. They've kind of got a couple other transfers in there. They got Trey Green. They got Dion Brown. They got Paul Otieno, who was all MAC last year at Quinnipiac. Nice front court. And then deep sleeper, Illinois State. I think they went 22-14 last year. They won the CBI, but they might have the two best low major players in the country on the same team. They have Chase Walker and Johnny Kinzinger, who run a little two-man game over there. Both could be at around like 18 points a game this year. Missouri Valley's a good league, so they'll get tested. But I think I like Illinois State.
I like Illinois State too. I don't know if they're a Cinderella team per se, but they're not ranked. So I think San Diego State is a team that their second weekend good. I think they could be a Sweet 16 team. I don't know if that's like a hot take or anything, but again, they're not ranked right now, but I think that they could end the season in the top 15, top 16 in the country. Obviously, you got Magoon Guath is back. He was a possible NBA guy. Miles Bird is back. Obviously, Brian Dutcher's an awesome coach. The Mountain West is off to a bit of a shaky start. I don't know if anyone watched Boise State. They lost, and they were receiving votes. They were a possible top 25 team. They lost to Hawaii Pacific, who's a D2 team, the Sharks. So not a great start for the Mountain West. I think San Diego State will be able to kind of cruise through that league this year. I think they're possibly second weekend good. I don't know if they're not Cinderella per se, but they're not a high major Power 4 ACC SEC school. So I would go with the Aztecs.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep the gimmick alive. Harvard, they're second in the Ivy. You never see that. Harvard's usually like fourth or fifth preseason poll in this conference. They're second only to Yale. Yale was first by a decent margin, but people are kind of sniffing around the Crimson here. So I think Hinton, if he gets to March, watch out. I just think he's a bucket. He can easily score 20. They have some lanky white bigs you can kind of shoot a little bit. Don't ask them to defend anyone whatsoever, but they can kind of shoot and pick and pop, and they have enough offense. It's just defensively, do they have the athletes to compete? I thought against Providence, like they looked, if they had better athletes, they would have beat the Friars in that exhibition. So it really comes down to the fact that they just don't really have athletes because they're an Ivy League school. But that's kind of something you can say in a lot of mid-majors. But
yeah, but for recently, the Ivy League, whoever wins that league has kind of been a very pesky.
They've been frisky. Yeah, for sure. I think other teams really underestimate these smart guys, that they are like, oh, Princeton? Really?
They beat Arizona? Yale beat Auburn?
Yeah. So sure. I think sometimes it just has to do with that. They had an NBA player too, by the way. So that usually helps, Mr. Tosan over there. So anyway, this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this a lot. I hope everyone else did as well. A college basketball preview. I'm sure Theo will be on a few times throughout the season, not just talking college basketball. Maybe we'll get him here for some NBA stuff, some NFL stuff. He's a versatile guy. But
I'm watching everything. I got eyes everywhere.
By the way, real quick, Theo, do you have a Final Four pick or do you have a national champion pick for us?
I like it. Yeah.
It's day one. It's basically day one. But yeah.
I think I'm into the Kelvin Sampson redemption arc here. Yeah. He brought in 3 5-star freshmen this year.
That's really impressive.
If they're just kind of like better versions of the guys they've had, like I don't know if they're going to replace I don't know. I think Chris Sinek, like by March he could be better than LJ Cryer was, and I think there's a couple, like when you put these like 5-star level talents in Kelvin Sampson's system, I think there's a way this turns out where they're even better than they were last year, and I don't know if there's going to be a team as good as Florida that they're going to have to beat to win the national title.
Last year was a historic year for college. It was 4 great number ones, and they were unable to win both games. But I mean, that's JoJo Tugler might be the best defensive player in the country. So Houston's got a squad.
Yeah, Uzan's back, Sharp's back. Like, yeah, they're going to be damn good.
Yeah, no, I like
Mike. Anything for you?
I mean, Houston was up there for me. I think Purdue's obviously got 2 senior guards. I think Braden Smith is just so under control at all times. Fletcher Lawyer, he doesn't need to score 30, but he did the other night. Texas Tech, I like a lot too. Those are the obvious 3 there. There's going to be one that comes out of nowhere a little bit, like a blue blood school that's going to be really, really awesome. I don't know who's going to be. There's going to be SEC is obviously a great conference again this year. But I mean, Houston's probably a safe bet. Houston and Texas Tech. The Big 12 is going to be really fun because we got Arizona in there now, too, who might be throwing their hat in the ring. They just took down Florida, aforementioned Florida, Iowa State, BYU. There's 5 teams in the Big 12 that I really like, starting obviously with the 2, Houston and Texas Tech, and then you got the Iowa States, the Arizonas, the BYUs. Don't forget about Kansas and Baylor, too. But it's going to be wide open. But I think those ones that Theo mentioned, Houston for sure, and a couple others, too.
I think Houston's better than last year. That's my take. I don't think it's crazy. So give me Houston and then give me the Johnnies. Battle of the Red there. I just think St. John's, the style of play really, really works in March. I just think, again, if you're going to get a historic bad shooting game, it just can't come in a tournament game. But if they can just shoot a little bit better, I think St. John's system more so than anything will really.
And we need Ian Jackson to hit some outside shots too. They got him from North Carolina. We need Ian Jackson to hit some outside shots, and they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I got to see the guard play, Jackson and Sannon, or however you say his name. Like high profile transfers. I just need to guards win you games in March. I need to see it. I need to see.
Yeah, we know Ejiofor is awesome, but we need the guard play in March. We'll see how that goes. But I mean, obviously, you got to trust Rick Pitino there. But we got to get some Big East love in there.
So that's it for our episode, guys. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Theo is doing a ton of stuff over for us at Busted Coverage. He's great there. Me and Mike are doing stuff all the time. I think we're going to try to go live tonight for Survivor. We'll figure that out, a live reaction to tonight's episode, but we're doing a few podcasts a week, so make sure you check that out as well. For Theo, for Mike, I'm X, and we will see you next time.